Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my 1 month-ish long series in which I use a particular deck called the Tarot of the Holy Light, created by Christine Payne-Towler. And I'm doing a somewhat deep dive into that deck as I'm on vacation right now on a cruise ship. And this is the 4th episode of this series. And the card that I drew today, you probably already saw it in the thumbnail, was the Fool, an upright Fool. But actually, I didn't see that this card has a reversed meaning, just so you know. What do we have? We have the Fool. We have the Fool you can see as a hermaphrodite. Now there's a male and a female side to this body. We also see that we have the entire zodiac around the Fool. We have the sun, we have the moon, we have other planetary elements at the chakras, the root chakra, the heart chakra. We also have a third eye there glowing. We have a dog. So when I drew this card, I immediately think, of course, of my Rider-Waite-Smith, my based learner. Yeah, so I think of about to take a new leap, about to begin a new adventure, the Fool. Yeah, the guy standing on a cliff, about to jump, leap, or walk off, with a dog yipping beside him, or nipping at this person's heels. And so I was thought, okay, that's a big message. So I should be expecting something big, I guess. And then after I drew that, as I have been doing, drew 3 Rider-Waite-Smith based decks from the the Light Seekers Tarot. And the first card is the significance. Now, the significance of this card to me. The second card is the helper or obstacle card. And then the third card is advice. And let me show you the 3 cards that I pulled from the Light Seekers right now. So you saw that the significance card was the Knight of Cups. Now, the Knight of Cups. We've got a guy sitting out in the desert on a horse with no name, with flowers, and we've got a blanket with maybe a love letter there, and we've got a bowl. I mean, this is the romantic knight, right? The poet knight, the knight of love. And when I say the Knight of Love, I'm not saying N-I-G-H-T, the other kind of Knight of Love. And so after the Fool and seeing this card as the significance of the Fool, I got kind of excited, frankly speaking. So I was thinking, oh, so there's this romantic adventure about to come up. And the next card, the helper or obstacle card, was the 4 of Pentacles, which we often think of as the greed card, the miser card, right? The 4 of Pentacles. And in this card, what do we see? We see a woman holding her purse with 4 coins clearly emblazoned on the purse. I don't get so much a sense of greed as hanging on to what you got. That's what I get from this card. So hanging on to what I got could be an obstacle to the Knight of Cups, right? That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? And then the advice was the Tower card. Shake it up. Yeah? Which looks like a good solution to this clinging on to stuff. Shake it up. So I was thinking, oh wow, so I guess today's going to be an exciting day of love and adventure. Well, it didn't exactly turn out that way. And we'll get to that in just a moment. So that's what I was anticipating. Because after the first 3 days, I pulled the card, and pretty quickly within that day, some things started to arise which really seemed to match the indications that were given through the daily card that I drew. So let me read I told you a little bit about what I was expecting, but let me read from the book. Now, what does the Fool mean in this deck? Now, the Fool is card 0, and it's either card 0 or the card with no number. And that is emphasized in this Continental Tarot. Now, the Fool card is not the first. If anything, it's the last, or the card with no position. And let me read a little bit from the book. Where am I? Yes, I am. The Fool confines, the Fool confines all of his acting and reacting to the interior world of his own consciousness, his own mythic imaginal. The outer world plays around him, the hellfires seethe, the lights and planets come and go overhead, and the barking dog of daily concerns nips at his ankles. But the Fool remains focused on the interior Eden, taking his cues from the Father, Son, and Sophia that have constellated within his energy field and as a result of his yielding attitude. So, what do we get here? We get that the Fool in this deck is not necessarily leaping out into a new journey into the world. The Fool is resting, if you will, within his own interior journey, within their own interior journey. Because again, this Fool is neither male or female. This Fool is both. Now this Fool is hermaphrodite, Hermes, Aphrodite, male and female. And so this Fool remains focused on the interior Eden. And you can see in this card, the interior of this Fool is full. Yeah, it's full of light, full of different powers, balancing powers. Let's move on to a little bit more. And here we get the Fool's only aspiration is to serve, share, and perform his practices in humble gratitude for love's sake only. Now interesting, love's sake only, right? For love's sake only. His self-cultivation ceaselessly lifts up the fallen ones with the power of Sophianic compassion and understanding. His immediate surroundings demonstrate the temperament, complexion, and natural climate that he creates with his own thoughts. Understanding himself to be a microcosmos within the world, he exercises his resemblance to God by enclosing his outer senses and opening his third eye. So, the Fool is separating himself from the exterior world, recognizes there is an exterior world, perceives it with the third eye, with psychic perception, with that spiritual perception, but is more focused within the love of that is emanating from and is the self. Does that make sense? Yeah? The Fool is that step between the world and the magician, still, but instead of the Fool being the beginning of the journey, it's that liminal space. That space of liminality is not an empty space, especially in this deck. It's a space of fullness, absolute fullness, containing every potential, every possibility. All aspects of the zodiac are in this liminal space. And the Fool is waiting for an opportunity to make the next move when it seems appropriate, when Sophia opens the door. But Sophia has not opened the door yet in this card. And when Sophia does open the door and the Fool does step through, all of that potential limits to one choice and the potential to forget the fullness of who the Fool is because we become enmeshed in our new daily lives. But that is not where this Fool is. This Fool is not there yet, if we make sense of it, if we can imagine all of that together. So, big message, right? How could that possibly relate to my day-to-day? Well, okay, so what happened today? What happened today was I was playing the fool for God, you might say. I mean, I wasn't preaching the gospel or being St. Francis in the world, but I didn't have a plan for today. And I didn't have a plan for the last time I got off the ship either, but this was even more so of no plan. I had anticipated staying on board the ship with my mother while my mother's companion went out and did some tasks. Yeah, went to a mall to get some things and take care of some things for herself. So I was planning to mommy sit, not babysit, but mommy sit today. And then, as we were preparing for the companion to do that, then suddenly my mother pipes up and says, "I want to go too." So then if my mother goes, then I got to go, which is fine. So I thought, okay, they said yes, I said yes, let's go. So we figured out a way to get her into her wheelchair, and there was a shuttle, and we got her on the shuttle, and we got her into town, and things unfolded from there, not with a particular plan. And I wouldn't say that the activities that we did were fulfilling completely. I mean, we got the main tasks done. That was wonderful. We went to this, what would you call it? It's kind of another outdoor museum, traditional Danish village, but with cobbled streets, with not really poor access for wheelchaired people, for people with mobility issues. And we rolled her in, and I muscled her wheelchair over these bumpy, rocky roads, and it was a difficult thing. And when we got in there and we looked around, there was really nothing for her to do in there, because once you got off the road, those things that you could get into, you had to go upstairs or you had to go up and into things, and it was just impossible for her to do any of that, which was disappointing, especially since we paid to go in to do very little of anything. But okay, but still I was following, right? I was following the path that was unrolling before me. A little bit disappointed, sure, but trying my best not to be reactive. Not to be grump, fucking grump, if you know what I mean. Not to get too pissy about anything or too complaining about anything. And yeah, it was hard, and they said, "Oh, you must be so tired, you must be having a hard time." And no, I'm not actually, I wasn't having a hard time. I was worried that my mother was having a hard time being jostled around. I was trying to be very careful, but I was doing okay. I was really doing okay, and I'm still doing okay. We got back to the ship, and they took a nap, and we went to dinner. We had a very nice dinner. And you're wondering, what does this have to do with this? What does that have to do with anything? I did notice as I went through the day that there were many different interactions of potential romance, if you will. People back in Korea that I have that an interest is developing. People in Korea that interest that had developed but seemed to be waning. My interest in potential romance seemed to have blossomed in a very interesting way today, I guess is what I want to say. And some of that blossoming was reciprocal, and some of that blossoming was clearly not. And some of that blossoming seemed to have been coming from the other person and then disappear. And so maybe that's what this is about. Maybe cracking it apart and letting the detritus slough off of my romantic life, perhaps. I'm not sure. And I'm not really sure exactly what these three cards had been telling me. They seem to have been telling me that, yes, there will be a lot of romantic interests and interest from me, and interests being people, and that perhaps my desire to hang on to all of that would be an obstacle, and so I need to crack it apart and let the things that are clearly not going to go anywhere fall off, And if that is the case, I think I kind of did that. Perhaps, maybe. But there's also this idea that while that was happening around me and within me, there was also this sense of being in the world but not of the world. I was moving around with my mom, with her companion, and I was moving her, physically moving her, and things were happening around me. And I guess I wasn't all that affected by things happening around me. I don't mean that I was, detached in a negative psychological way. I wasn't emotionally detached or something bordering on sociopathic. That's not what I'm saying at all. I mean that things that could disturb me did not disturb me. Nor did I feel any overwhelming impressions of anything in particular today. I was happy that we got through everything that we wanted to get through. It's not even I didn't let myself fall into worry. I wasn't even tempted to go into worry about succeeding in finding the diabetic testing strips or getting the machine replaced or getting this done or that done. I was cool throughout the whole thing. And I perhaps was feeling that balance of love, and it keeps being mentioned here, the wrathful love of the Father from above, and the compassionate love of the Mother from the wrathful love of the Father from above, the compassionate love of the Mother from below, and meeting in the heart chakra, and the balance of that. And maybe that's what I was experiencing, maybe. And it didn't feel like wrath, it didn't feel like compassion, because it was there at that balance point. Maybe. And in and amongst that, there were other more romantic love kinds of ideas, feelings that were swirling around my emotional environment. So that was my day. That was my full day. And I have a feeling that maybe this was an indication of the beginning of a period. That it's not just this is today and tomorrow will be something different. That this might be the beginning of a period of something. Maybe. We'll have to see. And that's why I'm doing this series, right? So friends, that's what I got for today. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Would you have read these 3 cards in a different way than I did? What do you think of this one, which is actually the central card of this whole day and this whole video? What do you think of this one? What does it say to you? Yeah? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. And also, hit the like button so that YouTube knows that, yeah, people like this. Other people might like it too. YouTube does that. And hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell if you have not already, so that you get notifications of when these videos are uploaded. And again, comment below. I would really love to hear from you. And if you want a private reading from me, there will be a link in the description box below to my Instagram account. If you hop over there, you can send me a direct message. And if you do that, we can work out a reading for you. And as always, friends, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.